Paige Bueckers comes to Toronto and takes over in the Tempo's building. Let's talk about it. So the Toronto Tempo lost 89-76 against the Dallas Wings in the first ever matchup between the two franchises. They fall to 9-11 on the season, still 9th in the WNBA, and just outside of a playoff spot. And the story tonight was just the sheer gap in firepower between the two sides, specifically around their lead creators. As you can see, Paige Bueckers, who led the game with her 22 points, was one of the many positive contributors for Dallas on the night, as all 5 starters finished in double figures. And on the other side, it wasn't until more than halfway through the third quarter that a player not named Marina Mabrey had at least 10 points for the Tempo. Now, she started strong, scoring 10 points in the first quarter, but ultimately gassed out without much support. I will give Kia Nurse her flowers quickly because she is doing well from an offensive standpoint. She's shooting over 40% from distance through her last 4 games. But look, to me, this game was about both teams having these elite shot makers with Marina Mabrey on one side, Paige Bueckers on the other side, both of whom attract so much attention defensively. Again, I've used that word gravity so many times before. So I asked both coaches before the game what their philosophy is in terms of guarding these heliocentric players and how they kind of attack that matchup defensively. And their answers differed largely, but I think they differed because of the personnel that's supporting these players in Marina and Paige. Sandy told me that, look, Paige is an elite scorer who's going to find one way or another to get her baskets. She's just too good not to. And Sandy was right. Like, my goodness, the skill that was on display from Paige in this game, obviously finishing with a game-high 22 points. Like, this fake cross sham god, I don't even know what to call it, into a very tough finish. That is just incredible, just skill on display from Paige. And then the snatch back into a spin, into a baseline fadeaway, just to flow into all of that all at once. Like, this is just unreal talent and skill. Again, Paige is one of the league's best tough bucket getters for a reason. So why she's called Paige Buckets after all. But Sandy's concern was that if the Tempo just blitzed or double Paige, well, one pass away from her is AZ Fudd, who is a sniper in her own right, or Arike Ogunbowale, who can catch fire at any moment, and so on and so forth. And when the Tempo did show Paige multiple bodies, the Wings had the requisite shot making to turn it into negative outcomes for Toronto. And then flip to the other side where I asked Jose Fernandez that very same question about, well, how do you guard Marina Mabrey? His answer was focused solely on Marina Mabrey and not the pieces around her. He talked about how she is the type of scorer where you want to avoid letting her get to her spots, where she can run out in transition, kind of get lost in the shuffle for defenses, and they lose track of her. And she gets all those pin downs and those stagger screens that make it hard for defenders to kind of chase around. And why do you want to make sure you do that and kind of stop her from getting to those areas? Because when you can force the ball out of her hands, the Tempo, currently at least, do not have the offensive firepower to make opposing teams pay consistently. So if you see here, Marina, she's able to hit her first 2 threes of the game. She's built some momentum. Again, like Jose talked about, in transition, she gets this very tough 3 off. She's starting to get comfortable. And then they immediately started sending doubles her way. It's maybe the first time this season the doubles have come as early as they did. And on the ensuing possessions, she does the right thing, making good decisions. The shots from her teammates just weren't going down. Marina spent the entire game from then on there just trying to navigate through and around multiple defenders, often having to muscle through the contact for her baskets or even to generate scoring opportunities for her teammates. Like, this was a pretty sick coast-to-coast drive and dime to Laura Yuskaita, the behind-the-back dribble, and then the wraparound feed. But even in that, you can see why Marina was as gassed out as she was by the end of this game and how fast it kind of hit her. This is an exhausting way to play. To be hounded as constantly as she was, it can wear on even the best of players, and while Marina was able to hit some of these tough buckets, her energy and impact dissipated over time as a result. And again, when she was doing the right thing in terms of finding her open teammates, opting to make that one pass for those release valves even, it didn't end up successful in this game. Like here, the Wings blitz the pick and roll. They know Marina loves that left wing area and is always comfortable pulling up from there, even as deep as she is here. And she correctly hits the overhead pass to Niara, but Niara is then not able to knock down the long 2. Here, the Wings try to trap Marina in the corner, and she again makes the right decision, swings it to Niara, who's able to then make the read, get the ball to Tima with the swing pass, but then Tima is not able to knock down the 3. Similar stuff as earlier. The double comes off the pick and roll. Marina feeds it to Izzy, who short rolls and tries to settle for the jumper, and then it hits back rim. Again, we could talk about how some of this, maybe even a lot of this, can come down to injuries with where the Tempo are right now. And I don't know if it would have necessarily changed the outcome. This is a very talented Dallas Wings team, as I did outline. They would have had a good shot of beating the Tempo, even if they did have Brittany Sykes and Kiki Rice. Granted, the Tempo were also missing Julie Allemande, who was a late scratch with an ankle injury, and we'll have to see how she feels in the coming days. They also didn't have Temi Fagbenle, who was out with a eye injury that was suffered in practice the day before. She's gotten better as a roller and being more available there, which obviously, again, the Tempo could have used that. Marina specifically could have used that in terms of just having that release valve available to her. But I'll reiterate it. It felt like if this was a gunfight, the Tempo showed up with a singular revolver while the Wings showed up with multiple snipers on the rooftop. They just had so much more firepower available to them, and it impacted how the Tempo were trying to defend them, and obviously it didn't work in terms of trying to limit Paige while also showing her as many different looks as they could and keeping the others in check. Everyone just got their shots off in this game for the Wings, whereas on the other side, the Tempo didn't really have much of a response when Marina was kept in check and gassed out. They just did not have the requisite shot making to make a difference in that regard. And what I will add is that this loss can't entirely fall on the injury bug excuse, and that's kind of the point I was trying to make a second ago. Even if it did play a factor, the Tempo were also sloppy and sluggish in this game too. Sandy has talked about multiple times starting games stronger, but they wind up giving up 30 points in the first quarter to their 19. She's also talked about managing the possession battle and the importance of that, and what did the Tempo end up doing? They finished with 14 turnovers for 23 points the other way. They then also get beat down on the glass, especially early. They finish -7, including 16 offensive rebounds for the Wings that lead to 20 second chance points. That was +14. And if there was a possession that sums up exactly what I'm talking about, it's this one, where the Wings grab not one, not two, not three, but 4 offensive rebounds. Yes, 4, before an unmarked Paige Bueckers easily tips in the basketball. Alana Smith is able to corral Arike Ogunbowale's missed midi. She kicks it out to AZ, who misses, but then finds a long rebound herself and then pushes it to Paige above the break, who lets it fly. And she also misses, but Alana Smith and Jessica Shepard are able to wrestle the ball away from Niara Sabali, as they then pass it out to Arike, who gets another shot, who also misses again, and that's when Paige just volleyball taps it in. When it came to managing the little things like turnovers and offensive rebounds, which Sandy even pointed out post-game were so important, the things that can swing the possession battle one way or another, the Tempo summarily got outclassed in this game, whether it was by the likes of AZ Fudd, who was great on the perimeter, generating turnovers, whether it was Jessica Shepard, again, dominating on the glass as well as she did. This one was very much played in the favor of the Dallas Wings. Look, I think we all know the Tempo have built-in excuses here. They're an expansion team. They're facing a boatload of injuries, and all of that has made their continuity suffer as a result. But they're also losing runway here at this point. We're basically at the halfway point of the season, and if the expectation is to be a playoff team, which I've been told is the case, then they're going to have to overcome these obstacles one way or another. Making the playoffs and being a top 8 team will require beating above 500 squads, which the Tempo still have not done yet this season. And luckily or unluckily for them, depending on whatever perspective you want to use, their next 10 consecutive games are all against above 500 teams. Both Izzy and Niara told us at practice the playoffs is what this team is striving for. Niara said no one in that locker room would be okay with missing the playoffs. Well, these next 10 games could be what make or break that goal happening, and it's going to be an absolute gauntlet. It goes like this. It's Valkyries, Wings, Liberty, Mystics, Dream, Aces, Lynx, Valkyries. These are all teams that are well above 500 and are going to be in that playoff picture come the end of the season. And I asked Marina about this upcoming stretch of games and how it might be considered some sort of a measuring stick. And she said this team, the Tempo, that is, focused on themselves before anything else, but they have also recognized that these are important games coming up, obviously. To be a playoff team, to her words, is to do the homework. It's to understand your opponent and their personnel. It's to find their weaknesses and to be able to consistently exploit them. And that's even against teams that are in the playoff picture who make that task much more difficult. Well, if we're talking about homework, the Tempo have more studying to do because the biggest test of their season, quite frankly, has arrived. And I think that's going to be where we kind of need to settle it for now. Again, injuries are part of it. Continuity or lack thereof is part of it. But if the Tempo want to be a playoff team like they say they do, they're going to have to figure this out one way or the other moving forward. And like I said, a big stretch of the schedule coming in to see if they can find the answers to the test. But as always, thank you to everyone who tuned in and got to this point of the video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Again, I always appreciate everyone taking the time. I know I haven't been able to do a couple recently because of different commitments, but I am here now, and I appreciate everyone for getting to this point. And if you have any thoughts on the Tempos 89-76 loss, sound off below, and don't forget to subscribe to Raptors Republic for more Tempo content all season. And until next time, I'm Zophie Sheikh. Stay blessed. Peace.